Hello everyone, how are you? I hope you are doing good. So today we are going to start with a new lesson which is where, when and how. So let's begin with this chapter. In this chapter we are going to learn the following. We'll see what happened in the history and we'll learn about what we know about the past. So when we talk about history, the subject history, it is always about something that happened in the past. So we learn about what happened, what do we know, where did the early people, where did they used to live? What were the names of these lands that they used to reside in? Then we'll see how do we find out about past? What are the sources or evidences of that past? Then we'll see if there is one past or many. For example, past for you may be different, past for me may be very different. So we'll see what is that difference and we'll see how and what do the dates mean. For example, we use the format 2020, 2022, 2021, etc. Isn't it? How did this format of date came into existence? We'll see about that. So, let's begin with the chapter. So, to begin with this chapter, we need to understand that what were the living conditions in which the ancient man lived. We are here not talking about the existing conditions, we are talking about past. And what kind of past? Is it 1 year back, 2 years back, 3 years back? When? We are not just talking about recent past, but actually about the events, about the history that took place thousands of years ago. So, where did the early man used to live? What were the living conditions of these ancient men? What were the crops that were cultivated in the Indian subcontinent? When did the first city and states emerge? What kind of clothes and tools were used by these people? Which was one of our first civilizations of India? How did the civilization, men, cities, towns, they came into existence? These are some common questions that we all must have in our hearts deep down as to how did it all start? There is a big question mark on how did it all began. So, let's talk about history. What do you understand by history? The word history, it comes from the Greek word historia. It means inquiring or research. So the Greek word historia was later on derived in the form of the word history in English, and it means inquiring or researching about something. History helps us to learn about not just one thing, but a lot of things that happened in the past that have already happened, and all these things, they have a common background, which is they are all based on truth and facts. These are not stories that we narrate or fiction. These are all the things and events that took place and that are true in nature. Then we will see that history helps us to know about culture. What kind of people used to live, what were their traditions, rituals, customs, culture, their day-to-day activities, etc. They also help us to acknowledge the heritage. What were the rituals or the customs that were followed in that time, in the previous era, and what do we still have today? That is our heritage. It helps to know about the civilizations as to how the early man, they used to live, what they used to do, what they used to eat, what they used to wear, what their day-to-day lives revolved around, what was their life like. So, we have divided history into three major portions. First, the ancient history, then the medieval history, and then the modern history. Ancient history belongs to thousands of years ago, which talks about the emergence of the mankind and how the ancient humans, they developed a sense of living. Then we have the medieval history, which consists of early civilizations, dynasties, kingdoms, rulers. That is known as medieval period and medieval history. Now, the third part is the modern history, which consists of the period from the 19th century to the continuous centuries of this time. So, now here is an image of a newspaper. Why do you think we are talking about a newspaper in history? For example, if we talk about past events, what happened yesterday? How do you get to know what happened yesterday in some part of India or some part of the world? Through the newspaper, isn't it? We can find about things that happened in the past through records, and these records come mainly in the form of scripts, documents. In today's time, we have the evidence of a newspaper that tells us what happened, where did it happen, and how did it happen. So in today's time, we have the proof, the evidence, the documentation of all the what, where, when and how by the sense of a newspaper. But how can we determine what happened thousands of years ago? There were no newspapers at that time. Then how do we know what are the sources or evidence of that truth that we are learning about? So let's talk about what happened and how do we know about it. So yesterday, we can remember what happened yesterday. Last year, there must be someone or there must be some record of what happened last year. For example, during the second wave of COVID in April 2021, these many people were hospitalized. So this is something that can be found in hospital records and government and public issues. But when we talk about long time ago, what kind of proof and evidence, how can we be sure about the fact that yes, this event took place? For example, we talk about that the Mughals ruled India during the early 14th century to the late 19th century. But what is the proof? There are proofs that exist and that tell us what happened in that era.